everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Tea and Strumpets. I am one half of your illustrious hosts. This is Forrest, aka Jungle915 on Twitter, and I have here with me again today.
Hey kiddies, it's Sean, and you can find me at Sean with a W on that Twitter.
Yay! And we're back again to talk about the next episode of Pose. This is going to be episode 3, Butterfly Cocoon. It was written by Our Lady J and directed by Janet Mock. Before we get into it, remember you can always, or you should always like and subscribe so you know when we putting out new shit. You know, do all of that. Y'all listen to the YouTube videos before you know what's going on. So let's get
Engagement.
Okay, you know, we need that. We need that. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm thinking, I mean, pretty much the easiest way probably to do this would be to just focus on characters, because essentially the two main arcs in this episode are going to be Angel and Elektra. So, who do you want to start with first?
Angels is pretty straightforward.
Okay. All right, so let's go there. So, Angel, when we towards the beginning of the episode, we're in the house of Evangelista. They're all hanging out and chilling, and a phone call occurs. We discover that during the phone call, unfortunately, Angel did not win. So she gets a little bit mad, and you know, all of that type of stuff.
Lashes out at poor Blanca.
As these ungrateful ass children will want to do. And then when she goes off, Poppy goes after her, and they end up sharing a moment. She kisses him, and he kind of lets her know that he actually likes her, and he doesn't kind of want to rush into anything. He actually really wants to date her and be with her. So they go about the business of setting up a date. And in the process of Angel picking out something to wear, she gets another phone call. And this is from Eileen Ford. So she goes up, fully expecting to give them a piece of her mind. And they let her know that, yeah, you didn't win this one, but I can actually just plug you right into a client. So there we go. I think, you know, one of the things that I love about this show is the educational aspect going on here. While we're not necessarily doing like a straight up docu-series or a biopic or bioseries, this is historical fiction. So it is definitely drawing from real events to kind of give you that. And what's being drawn upon in Angel's story is the story of Tracy Africa Norman. If you haven't had a chance to look her up, you know, do the Wikipedia thing, you know, Google. She is free and available to all. But Tracy Norman was one of the first trans models out there. She eventually made it onto Dark and Lovely. She was on the box of Clairol for this auburn color, and she had what was building into a vibrant career until she was ultimately outed. And then her career in the States was over. She still continued to model, she still continued to walk, but her career transitioned to being primarily European as opposed to being able to work in America, because transphobia is a thing and people ain't shit. So
there's always a hating ass bitch.
Ain't there? So in this story we see kind of Angel ratcheting up, and you know, what did you kind of want to say about her storyline at this point?
I kind of figured, you know, I'm not familiar with the you know, the actual person that the story is kind of inspired by, but I'm like, you could see what's being set up between the pictures that were taken when she was working with the photographer, you know, the nude pictures, and just knowing that that scene, you know, a lot of girls get very jealous, and you know, it's understandable because it's hard. Look at even though the Angelica Ross who plays Candy to me is passable.
Oh,
But, like when it comes to people who aren't passable, sometimes, they get really like vindictive.
mm-hmm.
And like I'm like, I can already see this coming.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna enjoy the journey to see it, but I'm already bracing myself.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see that ultimate deal. I mean, there's definitely shades of that, just because unfortunately that's reality, and this is based in a
Hmm.
certain sense of reality. I can't say that I know specifically how it's going to come, so that's the part where I'm going to enjoy the ride because I don't know where it's going to come from, but I figure it's going to come from somewhere. So we'll see
Yeah,
that
in a
one.
perfect world, I mean, if I was directing or writing the show, I wouldn't have any of that stuff happen just because it's foreseeable. I mean, I would rather find another way to uh, give the character a hardship without going that route. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why I don't I don't know. I guess the main reason I quasi disagree a bit is just because since we're doing the historical fiction thing, that's the way that history went, unfortunately. So, like I said, we'll see how they kind of adjust it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So, in the process of Angel getting this photo shoot impromptu without having prior knowledge, oh my God. So much of the 80s, or in this case, the 90s, could have been solved with fucking cell phones. It's like,
Yes, yeah, that's where I think I've talked about it before. Like, we're going like cell phones have been around for like 30 years now. So maybe even more. So it's like it just I think last time I talked about even pagers, I'm like, okay, I have to remind myself that there is no way unless these characters go and find a payphone or use a phone that's around them, they're going to be able to get a hold of this person, if they have a way to reach them. Because
yeah, I mean, because even if you have a pager or whatever, like, because, I mean, we know from when Poppy dealt drugs a little bit that he had access to a pager. The problem is when it's a pager, you got to give somebody a number to call back. And
mhm.
she's at work. So, yeah, that's not going to 100% work. So yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, you can't win for fucking losing there. So, she essentially, if she had have been able to get in touch with him, she could have let him know, and because unfortunately she ended up having to stand him up because the photographer was like, listen, I got you booked to 9. You can either stay and finish this, and we can get what we need, or if you go, just understand, I'm probably not gonna use, you know, I'm probably not gonna use this. So, I mean, she did what anybody's supposed to do, which is you fucking stay and you do what you got to do because girl, people in general don't get these opportunities, but especially a trans girl, you do not get these opportunities. So you have to
Mhm.
fucking, you got to honor that. So, and it's one of those things where I think Poppy would have understood, but it was what it was. So, um, she gets back, tells everybody her news, and that leads us to a great scene where again Poppy just becomes cuter and goddamn cuter. Where he lets her know, like, I mean, I don't understand you chasing your dreams and shit, but you're what I put on the pedestal like that, and you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm not gonna tell you to do it. And I love that he was like, do not apologize to me for chasing your dreams, because you
Mhm.
gotta do that. But just understand while you're out here chasing these prizes, I'm a prize too. I was like, you better know your worth, Poppy. You better know your motherfucking worth. So, yeah, I thought that was hella
Yeah, I'm
cute.
glad that he didn't belittle himself.
Mm-hmm. And I'm also
Like
glad. Go ahead.
like it could sometimes people are like, well, I know you want to be with someone like me.
No, he was like, no, I'm dope as shit. And I know that I value and I love you. And I'm going to, if as you're entering a world where you can't tell if people truly like you for you, you're going to know that I love you for you, that I care about you before any of the bullshit, before any of the whatever else. I am here for you. But you got to get to a point where you can appreciate that and you're ready to receive that. So I love that both he recognized his worth, and like I said before, I love that he didn't use the fact that he wanted her as a means to hold her back. Like, oh, you should be with me because I want to be with you. So you should forego all of your dreams and everything that you fucking work for just to be my girlfriend. So I love that. Like, Poppy's a dope character. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say on that?
No, I mean, you pretty much summed it up.
Okay. Well, that pretty much. I don't think there's much more to Angel's story in that regard. Correct? Can you think of anything else? I think we're good
No.
on that. Okay.
No, no, no.
So now we're gonna go to where the shit show enough was. And that is Electra's story. Cause Electra had a lot going on.
Yes.
So we get there. We open up with Electra, at her dominatrix job. She's happy. She's working. She's doing her thing. And the same John before that was taking the poppers brings in a gas mask. And basically, I guess that means to be able to release the poppers slowly so you can get like a steady stream instead of having to do like the one hit and wait and then a hit and wait and just here, I can stay in my stream of consciousness. He also does a line of coke before he puts on the gas mask. Remember, that's important because I've talked to y'all kids before. Whatever drug you gonna do the one, because when you start mixing shit, especially uppers and downers, the shit can have adverse effects. So pick your poison and rock with it, and then you'll party safely. Because I'm not gonna tell you not to do your thing, but do it safely. So he does not do his thing safely, and he tells Electra, "Hey, okay." So I just took my coke. I just put this gas mask on. I want to let this shit hit in. Give me about 20 minutes so that I can really be feeling it and you can beat the shit out of me. And Electra says, you know what? Okay, bitch. You paying for it, so I'm going to go do that. Electra.
Yeah, she was like, I'm on your time.
She does every damn thing. She's sitting down with her homegirl eating that damn hot dog. She made herself some tea. She was like, "Ooh, okay, let me
file their nails.
So, okay, all right, I guess it's time to go beat this bitch ass." And she gets back in there like, "Hey, you ready for your ass whooping? Come on, let's get this shit." And he does not respond. She goes over him and lifts the mask, and he's thrown up. And at this point, he's already more than likely he's overdosed, so he's probably choked on his vomit. So all of this shook out, and it scares the shit out of Electra, and she does what you do. You
run.
You run home.
Get the fuck out of there.
To deal with to essentially it's running away from fear, but also running towards your family. So in that case, she runs to Blanca and lets her know, bitch, it's some shit that done went down at this job. I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. And Blanca, God love her.
This is where her naiveness came through. Like, really?
She's sitting up here like, well, call the police. Girl, there is a dead rich white man and a black transsexual woman. No, baby. No. And they go through the whole thing, but eventually Electra's like, I don't even know what the fuck I came to you. I should have went to Candy. I should have went to my girl who does dirt, because your ass is you Pollyanna in this shit, and this is not what I need right now.
Mm-hmm.
So her and Electra gone down to Candy's, which I think this is the first time that we've seen where Candy works. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, especially after the last episode with their struggle.
Mm-hmm. what she
dinner.
does for a living. So yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
apparently Candy is a stripper. So she back in there. She's on the pole doing what she got to do because the girl got to get these coins. And Electra pays for her time to talk to her, and they go back and talk to her. And this leads to some of my favorite moments. Like, Electra was telling her, well, you shouldn't have clients back here. That's not safe.
When that man walks.
Uh-huh. And Candy said, girl, we're not going to talk about safety when somebody just died on your job. Like, no, you cannot lecture me about safety right now, bitch. People are living around my way. They ain't living around yours. So, they let her know that Blanca wants her to call the police, and Candy's like, bitch, are you crazy? No. No, you cannot call the police. Your ass is fucked if you do that. And then before Electra can make a bad decision, Candy tells her, listen, I got somebody that I actually want you to talk to for a minute. Come with me. And this is where we see Peppermint.
Another rude girl working.
Okay. Work, bitch. Work. So Peppermint is playing a street girl. You know, she's on the corner doing her thing.
A lady of the night.
You know. So they pay for her time. And when they let her know what happens, she tells them, like, girl, you do not want to call the cops. And again, this is where Blanca's naivete comes up. Because Blanca was like, I've been to jail before. Like, you know, we got arrested at that protest. And they're like, girl, this is not the same jail. We're talking about a violent crime. And Peppermint proceeds to tell her a story about getting essentially her meeting with a John, and the John getting upset because he couldn't get up, and him attacking her, and she attacked him back, and boom, they fighting each other. And when the cops pull up, even though when the cops pull up, they're in a state of him beating the shit out of her because the cop is a white man and she's a black trans woman. The cops only listen to him, especially when he threw out that he had a family member or knew somebody that was a cop. And they end up arresting her for a robbery rather than arresting him for attacking her. And they send her to Rikers. And again, because this is an attempted robbery, this is something that's more serious. So she's not going to like a holding cell for a night. She's got to stay in that bitch. So she says, you know, first they beat the shit out of her. I mean, we know these stories. If you've heard anything about Khalif Browder, if you've seen When They See Us, similar thing. And then she says that a guard kind of lets her know that he can take care of her and that, you know, he can get her makeup and get her a wig and all of that. And, you know, she says okay, but comes to find out that the guard is essentially prettying her up so he can pimp her out to the other inmates and probably to some guards as well if you really want to be trill about it.
That is some shit.
Yeah, but that's it. And basically she lets her know, girl, is you know, to Electra, as pretty as you are, you don't want to see no parts of that fucking jail. I don't know what you got to do, but you want to do everything that you can to avoid going there. And this is when Candy lets her know, now bitch, I know somebody who can take care of these things. And this is another scene where you see that Electra values her family and that she loves her family, because she then pulls Blanca to the side and says, you got to go.
Yes, it was the most selfless. I mean, I was like, Electra, you do have a little spot in that ice cold piece of coal in your chest for your family.
Exactly, because she lets her know, bitch, whatever the fuck is about to go down is not about to be anything close to legal. you cannot be around.
And she knows that Candy's already in the midst of dirt.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like when you have like different sets of cousins, and you know there's some cousins that are goody two shoes, so you can't do no dirt, you can't smoke no weed around them. You know, Just you leave, let them be pristine. Let them go to church and sing in the choir and do whatever. You can't do your dirt around them. But then there's them other cousins.
They've seen it all.
They've seen it all. You can go, shit, you probably buying the weed from them. so
They're probably the ones that introduce you to shit.
exactly. So because of that, they go off and do their thing, and she just lets Blanca know, bitch, you got to stay here, and we got to handle what she handled. So this is where we see Blanca, not Blanca, Jesus, Candy and Electra go to meet Miss Orlando. And she down there giving the girls silicone and shit in the motel or whatever. And I guess
Up to fuckery.
Okay, and Candy's had issues with her before, so they got a little bit of beef or whatever. But Candy's heard around the way. This bitch has had to get rid of a body when somebody had a bad reaction in past, and nobody could find the body since. So, after a bit of negotiation and some money, she agrees to help. So they essentially go and grab a suitcase, get the body, clean up as much as they can before the cleaning crew gets there so that they don't find a dead body or any of his shit there. And then they go to Electra's home, and she just goes to get supplies. Now, for those of you who know Paris is Burning, what we're hearkening to is the story of Miss Dorian Corey. And Dorian Corey is the queen that had pretty much the most quotables in that film. Like, if you've ever heard that quote, shade comes before reading, and where she really breaks down the difference between shade and reading, that's Dorian Corey. So Dorian Corey passed away in 1993. And when she passed away in 93, one of her friends who was kind of taking care of her affairs started, selling off items and came across a trunk that was too large to lift. So she was like, this is weird. And she opened it up, smell came out, and she said, honey, I had to call the police because I don't know what the fuck was going on there. Then, when she called the police, they discovered that there was a mummified body in that trunk that they estimated had been there for about 15 years. And we obviously will never know the exact, but they did identify the body. And essentially, the running theory is that he tried to rob her and she shot him, and she had to do what the fuck she had to do. But yeah, we don't know. We do know that she wrote a short story about a trans girl who had to kill somebody. So they're kind of looking at things like that. Like, did she kind of put her story, fictionalize it a bit? But all of this stuff to say that, this is drawing from a real event. So that takes us to Miss Orlando coming back, and they have the stuff to be able to, take care of the smell.
The lie.
They have the lie for that. They also have some pleather so that it won't leak or seep out as the body
The
starts
crazy
decomposing.
thing is that you have to keep in mind, this is before the internet. So I'm wondering, did they go and get books about mummification? How all that came about?
You don't remember her telling her story?
Who?
Miss Orlando. She told the story of how she knew what to do. So the reason that she knew what to do, now of course this is not necessarily relevant, but the reason that she knew what to do was because there was a woman whose husband was beating her, and she fought back, and she ended up shooting him in self-defense. And all of the women in the neighborhood, so that she wouldn't get caught, helped her wrap the buddy up, do all of that, do what basically.
Oh, okay. She was telling that story when they were wrapping him.
Exactly. So they helped her
I think I was just so intrigued by what the fuck they were doing.
It was a lot. It was
I was like, this is insane to me.
It was insane, period. So essentially, yeah, they wrap the body up, they sew it up so that the body won't leak, and as we know now, the body is now sitting in Miss Electra's closet. Like, I won't tell if you won't tell. So, yeah, and it's one of those things where we basically get to the end of that. We don't hear from that anymore. I mean, Blanca meets up with Electra just to check in on her and say, bitch, I know you cold, but you still got a heart. How are you? And again, this is where the love between them is so apparent because Electra is an asshole to Blanca,
Very much so.
but she loves it because that's still her mother. So she goes and she says, essentially, that I am going to I do have nightmares about it, but shit, I had to do what the fuck I had to do. And another thing that's kind of historical as well, just so that you kind of get the history of ballroom culture and the way that they're referencing ballroom culture. To me, that this makes sense because if you look at the relationship between Electra and Blanca, it mirrors the relationship between Dorian Corey and Angie Extravaganza. Dorian Corey was Angie Extravaganza's house mother. Eventually, Angie Extravaganza spun off and formed her own house that was more focused on Latinx people. I mean, at that point, it would have been Latino, but Latinx people. Because in the ballroom scene at that time, they were a bit more marginalized because it was primarily a black space, but there were Latinx people in this space. So we kind of see a similar vibe with Blanca's because if you look at House Evangelista, Damon aside, this is primarily Latinx people. And eventually the House of Extravaganza kind of opened up to everybody, but started out as a space that was primarily Latinx because the founders were. And we talked last week about Hector Extravaganza and him coming from that house and him being one of the main consultants on the Pose. So I think that's definitely a nod to that relationship and to that dynamic, probably that they got from consulting with Hector. So again, I love, love, love that Janet Mock and the crew and the people around Pose are taking this care to kind of gradually educate you on the history and the dynamics of ball culture. And essentially with that, we get Electra. And this is honestly, this episode is the best acting that Electra has done for the entire series.
Well, this episode also has a totally different vibe to it than all the others. While it still has, Pose, it has its comedic elements, its dramatic, the heartfelt. It basically has everything. But this one had a much more serious tone to it about the severity and the things that these women had to go through because there was so much stacked against them. And I really loved the scene where Electra and Blanca are out at a restaurant and they talk about, we bitches, we may cut each other and stuff, but they're like, when the outside world tries to tear us down, this army closes ranks. And it's because they all, we were talking about it earlier, some hating ass bitch is gonna sell out Angel and, tell her story. But it's they will do that stuff to one another, but they also have one another's back because they all share that commonality of being the outsider. Which is really weird. I don't understand why they will do things to hurt one another because it's weird. It's like, okay, so you don't want people from the outside coming in and hurting you, but it's okay for us to hurt each other.
Well, honey, at that point, you got to be talking about human behavior, period, because that happens in families all the time.
Oh yeah.
I know that. I can talk about my brother and my sister like a goddamn dog, but you motherfuckers better not say shit. That's human behavior. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's dysfunctional as fuck because most families are dysfunctional, but that's mirroring a family, to be quite honest. So, yeah, and that scene that you're referring to is the last scene. So, and they close out this time. Okay. Yeah, this scene mean, they close out, like last week they closed out with a quote from Hector Extravaganza. This week we closed out with a quote from Dorian Corey to Really Driving Home. Like, yes, bitch, we are definitely referencing that. Also on I think Pose's IG, they tweeted out or like posted on the IG like a reference to the story of Tracy Africa Norman. So I'm like, okay, so we're all on the same page. This is what we're doing. They're letting you know, hey, these are our references. We're referencing trans stories, especially the stories of trans women of color, and we're elevating them and putting them out here for you. So yeah, I stand for this show. I stand for what they do. I stand for the amount of care, for the amount of nuance. And like you said, the show is everything. It's comedy because sometimes life is comedy, because especially when you're a marginalized person, shit is so crazy, shit is so fucked up that you have to laugh. Most, people of color, be they black, be they Latinx, and most kind of people who are marginalized, be it trans or queer, we end up having a gallows humor because we have to laugh at how fucked up things are. Because if we just sit here and take everything seriously all the time, we will fucking kill ourselves. And then, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, people do. But that's how we get through it. So we find the comedy in that. So you see that in this show, but you also see the moments when things get serious and shit gets real. Because our lives are both comedy and tragedy. So I love that aspect of the show. But yeah, that was pretty much the end of it. This is a pretty straightforward episode. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add? Any other observations?
Just that I still can't believe that they were making that. It was like really hard for me to process. Like, damn. The same, but every episode so far, like, we're not old, but we're not young. Even at 37, it's like, damn, I cannot believe that this was going on in 1990.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
So I really do have an appreciation for them putting these stories out when, I mean, we haven't had access to these stories aside. And then I didn't even see Paris is Burning until like what, right before Pose started or after Pose started, the first season.
Yeah.
Like I had, because I lived in New York City for a few years, and I had a friend at the time, and he would always be like, "You need to watch Paris is Burning," and I'd be like, "I'm not interested in seeing that." And it was just something that I was like, I had no idea about ballroom culture or any of that. So I'm really thankful for a show like Pose, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like me who had no clue about this whole, it's essentially a world that pertains to the history of my group of people.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I only remember stories like this in the periphery because I had friends, family members, people like that I knew of that like passed from age. But because of our age at that time, I wasn't allowed to be so close to where I could really see what was going on. And then I've read.
Well, yeah,
things.
We were children,
exactly,
young kids.
Yeah, so I've read things and seen things in the movies and all of that. But by the time we come of age, it's the world is different. New York is different. The AIDS crisis is different. By the time we come of age, even though it's not as developed as it is now, the medications are developed enough to where people are living with HIV and not developing full-blown AIDS. They figured out a regimen to keep people not just living, but to have them have a decent quality of life. So it's a completely different world than what we're seeing depicted here, because at that time it was not like that. It was like you get it, you get HIV, within like a couple of months you have AIDS, and in a lot of cases you are dead. Like it happened that fast. So it's crazy to kind of go back and revisit that time, and to revisit it in a way where you get to slow down and stay in that space and really see the world around them. Other thing that I was going to bring up was the music. I love that Janet worked in her namesake um, she worked in her because she's
Black Cat.
yes, because she's. I mean, Janet Mock has freely said I named
Yeah,
myself
she's
after Janet
obsessed.
after Janet Jackson. So
She
yeah.
was obsessed with Janet and Destiny's Child.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen an interview where she talks about that.
Yes, yeah. So I love the music selection. So that the
And Nasty Girls.
exactly, yeah, Nasty Girl at the strip club, and then when they were doing what they had to do with the body, like Shame. It's like, girl, it's a shame what I'm
They,
having to do, but shit, I
I
gotta do
need
what
to
I gotta
say it
do.
again. Let it sink in. They were mummifying bodies. Like, my God.
I mean, the only thing that was
This
missing
has
to
really
me
messed
after
with me.
the
Now I'm wondering, I'm like, who else out? I would seriously be, if I was in that scene, and I came across anybody, like say I was working on Pose and I was doing research, in the back of my mind, I would be wondering, do they have a body? We were joking last night, we were taking a walk after the show, and I'm like, I wonder if T.S. Madison has some mummified There's some mummified bodies in the chateau
I
in the backyard.
if she does, she will take that shit to her grave. God bless. God bless.
I'm
That's
telling you, and also I joked around while we were watching it. I was like, you know what? We need to come up with a goddamn Walking Dead story full of nothing but trans women of color and gay people of color, and then a few vanilla sprinkles that, fit in there. But just because marginalized groups of people, their survival skills are so much higher elevated than people who are privileged or get to walk without fear. They when they wake up in the morning, it doesn't cross their mind, what if I get pulled over? I could be, shot. I could be killed for just the way that I look. They definitely have a privilege of moving through society in a way that marginalized groups don't have. So you always have to, and we love T.S. Madison around here, but I love when she's like, you know, you have your tasers, have your pepper spray, have your gun, because you really have to have a way to defend yourself.
yeah, exactly. So with that said, the only thing that I was missing from the end of that quote of Dorian Corey was just a message that says she did what she had to do. Okay, so she did what she had to
Well,
do.
the alternative, we've seen I mean, Rikers Island, you hear about Alcatraz? Fuck. Rikers Island sounds like it's just as bad, if not worse. Like, it sounds like you think horror movies are scary? No, those are real life
Yeah,
I
I
can't
mean
even say
all of
horror
those
films, but
places
they're
like
horror places.
yeah, Rikers, Attica, all of it's real out here, and especially if you're somebody that's vulnerable like that, it is real. I mean, shit, hello, Laylene Polanco
Yeah, that she just died.
just died this year, a few weeks ago.
And
Today we
this
just
shit is
had
still
the
going on.
to yeah we I think this week we just had the 11th trans woman die. Or not die, they were murdered. Like these people aren't dying of natural causes. The
Yeah, I
average.
saw Dominique. I think who plays Electra, Dominique Jackson. I
Mhm.
saw her post this morning on Instagram. Like, another trans woman has been killed,
In
and it's
Kansas
like,
City.
this
And
is.
yeah, you wonder why the girls may have to shoot somebody and hide a body?
Yeah, that's why I'm like that. That's why Madison's like, you've got to have ways to protect yourself.
On some real shit. Like it's wild out here. Because I mean, at this point, we still got police departments dead naming girls and not. We still got. Still a very huge bias against these women. I mean, and again, we've seen things like when they see us, and that applies to trans girls as well. So it's real out here. So I again love the show for bringing that level of realness to it, but also like treating it like real life. In some cases, when you're forced to have to do some fucked up shit, sometimes it's gonna be like, girl, this shit is so crazy. I can't do nothing but laugh at it because it's so fucking crazy that I'm having to do this shit. But that's
It's
life.
survival.
Yeah, that's life when you have to survive. So, anything to say before we bounce?
No.
All right, kiddos. This is it. Listen, again, remember, like, subscribe, all of that jazz. But until the next episode, which unfortunately won't be for 2 weeks because
Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. 2 motherfucking weeks. What the fuck? And we didn't even get an hour and a half episode, so we got an hour episode minus commercials, and we gotta wait 2 weeks.
well, I mean, I don't know how much more this episode could have taken. so, so
Well, we needed a cool down. You know how it is when you have a real hard workout, you need a cool down period.
Exactly. They're like, you know what? Y'all need to marinate on this shit right here. When this shit that just happened,
Yeah.
y'all need to marinate on that. So,
I don't think I'm the only one that's like, God damn, they were mummifying people.
yeah, you got to do what you got to do. So that said, we appreciate you listening, and until next week or the week after next, until next time. We'll just say until next time. Those words that work. Until next time, thanks for listening and have a great day. Bye.
Laters.